Dear viewers, what is this nuclear deal all about? Do we really understand the nitty-gritties of this deal? Why are some people so much in favor of the deal when some are totally opposed to it? To speak about it as well as to understand it, I have with me today one of the senior-most nuclear scientists of this country, Dr. N. Prasad. Warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
You were the director of Baba Atomic Research Center.
Yes.
And you were also a commissioner with disarmament for Iraq.
Yes.
Of Iraq, rather.
Yes.
And you were also with the IAEA,
Yes.
International Atomic...
As a consultant and senior specialist.
Okay. And today we hear about this nuclear deal, and most people don't even understand what this deal is all about. What exactly is this deal?
This deal is about, United States and India getting into some sort of a cooperation agreement by which the nuclear trade and commerce, could get started, and also cooperation in the entire nuclear field, which has been denied to us ever since we conducted, the Pokhran test in 1974, could be restarted.
Okay, but what is the advantage of this deal? I mean, what are we going to get out of this? What do we not have now that we are going to get out of this deal?
Just to take you back, to the beginnings, when Dr. Baba, who was the founder of our nuclear program, more than 50 years ago, almost 60 years ago, I should say. So he, with his vision, he thought, that nuclear energy could play a very leading role in the long-term energy security of this country.
Okay.
So at that time, he made a quick assessment of our strengths and weaknesses as far as the atomic minerals are concerned, because minerals are required for using as fuel and then, extracting energy out of these minerals. So at that time, he thought, that uranium that is required is very limited in our country.
Okay.
That is, that is the one, which is available in
Sadly so, because we seem to have almost everything else.
Yes.
But uranium,
Yes,
because we are a peace-loving country.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as if the nature was very kind to us, that we have abundant resources of thorium. In fact, one of the, the best in the world. So now he thought, this weakness in uranium could be made good, by thorium. While uranium could be used as a fuel, but thorium cannot be used as a fuel. As we call it, as uranium is, certain component of the uranium, natural uranium, is a fissile material, whereas thorium is totally a fertile material. We call it as fertile material. Unless it is converted into fissile material, it cannot be used as fuel. So now he thought of a three-stage program, wherein that we have a type of reactors, that is the heavy water reactors, which could use natural uranium, and this uranium can be converted into partly plutonium, extract that plutonium, use it in the second stage, in the fast reactors, using thorium in those reactors for converting thorium to uranium, a certain form of uranium, which is suitable for using as fuel. And then, extract that uranium which is produced in the fast reactors, and use it in the third stage for driving thorium uranium, as a cycle. So that means, if you do that, this 10,000 megawatts of electricity that could have been generated out of the uranium that we are having, we can generate 350,000 megawatts of electricity.
Okay. With whatever that's available.
With whatever is available. So it means, a large multiplication.
By not even depending on anybody else for uranium.
But he always thought that this sort of conversion from uranium to thorium, it will take time. And he thought of it as a sort of a long-term energy security.
Was it because, we did not have the kind of technology then, or because he was not able to see the kind of things that were going to happen in the future?
So at that time, the technology anywhere in the world also, of course, has been limited, of course, because after all, this is not.
But all the problems started only with this weapons grade uranium, right? Because And if at all it was strictly limited to the use of uranium in fuel or in energy areas, but I think
Yes, but unfortunately what happened is the nuclear energy did not get initiated in the world as a power generator.
okay, it was
More as
basically
a
for weapons.
So the first use of the nuclear device,
Okay.
it has started as a destructive use.
Okay.
Actually, that's an unfortunate part.
But is it actually true with India that in the beginning we really did not look at nuclear energy as for the use of energy requirements? But
No. It is entirely.
But after the Chinese war, they say even Nehru started thinking of nuclear energy because that resulted in India, seriously considering nuclear weapons.
No, but I'm positive that we in India we started the nuclear program for peaceful purposes.
Okay.
That is our the major goal.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Oh, that was the original
That's what
vision of
Even,
Dr. Baba also.
Yes. Even when the first Geneva conference that was held, the Atoms for Peace conference that was held, way back during Eisenhower time. So Baba started talking about the tremendous potential of the atom for the use of energy for mankind.
Okay, but you as a scientist, also as an ex-director of BARC, have been opposed to this nuclear deal in its present form. What is that present form? I mean, you think that we can do without this deal?
Again, talking about the beginnings, we have made very steady progress on this 3-stage program.
Okay.
As enunciated by Baba, because we all believed that is the only way that we can, ultimately reach our goal.
And be self-reliant also.
Self-reliant. So Baba always taught us that you cannot, don't be complacent, don't try to look for technologies from outside. Always, you have to learn how to stand on your own legs. And in case any cooperation is coming from outside, take it willingly, but at the same time don't depend on it.
Don't beg for it, don't compromise.
Depend on it. Don't depend on it.
But today, the kind of deal that we are talking about with the US is totally uranium dependent.
Yes.
Which actually is not our initial program. So are you trying to say that, with the new deal, if at all it comes through, it's going to change the total nuclear program of this country?
Certainly, because our chosen path is from uranium to thorium and getting self-sufficiency, of course. And we have mastered the first stage.
Okay.
Because we are in a position to design, operate reactors, construct and operate reactors.
And to extract plutonium.
Extract plutonium out of it.
Okay.
Because this plutonium extraction, we have been at it since 1964.
Oh, okay.
That means we got tremendous experience, more than 40 years of experience in extraction of plutonium.
Okay.
And this is supposed to be a very most highly sensitive technology which we have mastered.
Okay.
And we know how to irradiate thorium and convert it into uranium and extract uranium out of
Okay.
it. That
is there any
also
difference between that uranium that is, that is got out of
From thorium.
making thorium into uranium and the natural uranium that's...
Yes. Because the uranium has got different isotopes, what we call, it has got different mass numbers. So the natural uranium has got predominantly uranium-238. Okay. 238 is an isotope which is the mass number, and that is there 99.3% of that.
Okay.
Whereas uranium-235, which is the useful thing, for fissile this thing, that is 0.7%.
Okay.
Whereas and this uranium-235, this is 0.7%, which is the one which is undergoing fission in a reactor.
Even for energy, only that can
only
be used.
That is
even for weapons
even
too.
for weapons also, that is the
okay.
one. Whereas uranium-238, which is there, the bulk,
okay.
that has to be partially converted into plutonium. And that plutonium will have to be extracted, and that can be used again in the reactors or in the weapons.
Okay.
Whereas in the case of thorium, thorium is mass number 232 actually, in fact.
Okay, they say thorium is so abundant that all the sands of
Yes,
Kerala is full
Orissa
of
and all the things full of thorium actually.
Yeah.
So that thorium has to be very meticulously converted into nuclear grade thorium. That is a very complex process which we have mastered that also.
Okay.
And thorium comes along with so many other minerals which are useful, which are also money spinners.
Okay.
And this thorium, nuclear grade thorium, has to be converted into fuel and used in certain type of reactors for converting uranium 232 to uranium 233 there. It's not 235 or 238 as it is there in the natural uranium.
Okay.
So 233 it has to be done.
Okay.
So that is in the reactor it gets converted.
Okay.
So this uranium 233 has to be reprocessed, and we should extract uranium 233. And this will be used again, in the ultimate reactors, that is the third stage reactor.
Okay, that too is fissile material.
That is also fissile material.
Okay.
So we have mastered the technology on thorium also.
Okay.
In fact,
so what you're trying to say is that we do not need that deal. We do not have to go and stand at somebody's door and beg for technology or beg for uranium and make compromises for uranium's sake. We already have a technology, we just need to wait for some time, or we already have the technology that is feasible today itself.
I mean, I don't say that this deal is not required or the technology is not required or whatever it is, but the point is, having learned how to grow strong right from scratch, to the level that we have reached now,
without depending
on it, because we have been on
in spite of embargoes.
Yes, we have been on embargoes
blockades
since 1974. We knew that the uranium shortage is there, right from the very beginning of our
It's
program.
not a new realization,
it's not something
like
new
you
suddenly, as if while selling the deal, the government is telling that we are under isolation, and we are we are not having uranium.
We need to do this because we need to be friends with the US.
Because of that, the energy is not going to be there. I mean, all these things are known actually, and nuclear power has been looked at as a long-term option. In fact, we never talked that immediately it's going to solve the problems of the country, I mean, as far as energy is concerned. So we are going very steady on this actually. The problem with this deal, of course, is that as if you talk about two aspects, one is isolation, the other is about the energy scarcity actually. In fact, so these two things have to be made good by this deal. This is the way this deal is being actually marketed now. So if you look at the energy option, as I said, that energy certainly yes, if recognizing our strength, if anybody is prepared to come and cooperate with us and allow us to be a global partner, global player, because it's not that we are only the receivers of technology, because we have nuclear technology much superior or far vast than many of the advanced countries. In fact,
because you say the fast reactor that we have is comparable to just two other countries.
Because
one is Russia and other is France.
But point is, the way that we are going ahead, with this fast reactor program, nobody else has got in the world.
Is it because of lack of confidence? Because today we have to do something like this, or like you said, there's some kind of a fixing that's been happening, like match fixing. You've been suspecting it because there could be some bigger motives that people are not able to see. Like you say, I mean, it's like India never signed NPT or CTBT, and today even you say that this is going to be more dangerous than even signing those treaties.
Well, but the point is, having learned how to develop yourself, and already we have been isolated since 1974, as I said. But under isolation, if we are in a position to
do so much,
the stage where we are actually, in fact, and the US, which was having some sort of an obsession since 1970 when the NPT came into existence. Ever since 1970, they have been trying their best to rope in India into this NPT regime. That is almost like an obsession actually. And we have been consistently, opposing that because this is a very discriminatory treaty, and we are not party to that actually. they tried all sorts of other means of
They've
taking
been
us.
harboring a grouse also about
Yes.
it for a long time.
Yes.
And somehow have been waiting for the right chance to
So, yes.
probe it.
So the full scope safeguards and all that thing, they tried and they didn't succeed on that. So now, leaving India alone, they have already set 3 stage. First stage they have mastered. India has mastered. Second stage we have taken a giant step, by going in for a prototype fast breeder reactor in Tamil Nadu, Kalpakam, which is a 500 megawatt reactor. So, and then we have done the comprehensive research on thorium. Actually, I mean that is when we are going in for the second stage. Thorium also, we have done a lot of work actually. For
Okay.
that. So now it's a question of only time when we go into the third stage.
Okay.
And then when thorium utilization comes in, we become the world leaders.
Okay.
World
But
leaders.
what you're trying to say is that by chance if we sign this deal with the US, or if this deal comes through, the whole present program will be abandoned, or is there a danger of it being abandoned?
No,
because tomorrow the US can actually convince even any government saying that when you have a technology like this, but you actually have to go for something like making uranium out of thorium.
I mean that is a possibility actually.
Yeah.
Because nowhere, after all, the government has also been telling, and of course, partly it is true that there is nothing in the deal, which prevents us, from carrying on with our, stated route. That is the 3-stage program. We can go on, of course.
But this is going to be, our current program is going to be laborious, time consuming, as well as, delayed.
No, we can go on, with the present program, as long as we get the support, of course, because it requires tremendous
But then what
financial
is the
support.
fear? Then what is the fear?
But the fear, of course, is that
It's going to be very restrictive.
The fear is in 2 parts. The first part, of course, is that recognizing our strength,
Which they are not doing.
and the position that we are in.
Which they are not
If you
doing.
if you look at it from the point of view of the July 18 joint statement, 2005, that's when the whole deal started actually. If you look at that statement, it says that recognizing India's advanced technological prowess, and then a very good track record as far as non-proliferation is concerned. So they wanted that India should be eligible for getting into some sort of a cooperation with the United States and the rest of the world. At par with advanced countries like the United States.
Okay.
And this cooperation should be in the full nuclear fuel cycle.
Okay.
That means full civil nuclear cooperation.
Only civil.
This is what it is. That's fair enough.
Okay.
Because nobody would like to cooperate, with military
No,
programs.
but in the sense, will not be
Yes.
able to use the waste material also for ourselves, or do we have to ship it
No,
back to the country?
These two should be separated out.
Okay.
So now the thing is, having recognized this, there was a lot of euphoria, and I also welcomed that this sort of a thing, recognition has come. And because of our strength, because they wouldn't have talked to us, if we had not gone for weapons, if we had not gone for this sort of development, right up to the fast reactor program. If we had not done all these things, and if we had thrown our towel, then they would have just gobbled us up. So because we have shown guts, we have developed quite a lot, and they are also in a position to talk to us now.
Okay.
So now, having done that, we thought that there would be some sort of they would live up to whatever they have stated in the starting point.
Okay.
But as you go along, they have legislated the Hyde Act, and then they have come to this 1, 2, 3 agreement, bilateral agreement, which is there. If you look at all of them, you see that there is absolutely no clarity.
Okay.
Then the whole sort of ambiguity is there, and then this Hyde Act, which has been promulgated as a legal document now, it's an act now. And the whole deal, has to, contrary to whatever the government is telling, has to be anchored on this Hyde Act.
Okay.
And this Hyde Act, if you look at it, it's a voluminous document. It is highly prescriptive. It goes beyond the nuclear part.
Okay.
In fact, it gets into some of our other strategic programs, and also it goes into some of our
Okay.
foreign policy issues.
Oh.
They say that you should not go for friendly relations with Iran and things like that.
Okay.
So it goes beyond all that thing. So it is totally prescriptive.
Okay. It's almost like talking down to you.
Yes, almost like that.
Okay.
And then we are supposed to comply. That's all that is said. And then the Congress says that U.S. administration should keep reporting how India is behaving, and they have to certify that India's good behavior. I mean,
We don't need
almost
that.
every year. I mean, for cooperation to continue. This sort of a thing is there.
It's very
I
demeaning.
mean, it is demeaning.
Very-
Yes, that's exactly the word. It's
Yeah.
highly demeaning. So that part of it is there. So now we objected to that sort of thing, because we, in
And
fact,
particularly to scientists like you who worked so.
yes, it is so. I mean, it's heartbreaking. That having worked for so long, entire professional life,
You
we have
dedicated
spent
your
on that thing.
lives to
And now,
to
this is
see
what-
something happen, and
Yes,
ultimately somebody just comes and starts dictating terms and
Yes.
negates everything that you've done till now.
Yes. And then on top of it, I mean what are all the things that they have done? Because we have not been allowed to, allowed the full civil nuclear cooperation. They say that only the commercial part of it, that is the power reactors, are on offer.
Okay.
And all other parts of the fuel cycle which are complex, whether it is for the question of technology or whether it is a question of sending any hardware or components or anything, everything is ruled out.
Okay.
That means with this deal,
Only the
embargo-
US will benefit.
embargoes will continue.
Okay.
All the embargoes and good part of the nuclear fuel cycle will continue.
Okay.
And whatever it is beneficial for the US and other countries, only that will be
Okay.
open actually.
Because it also means billions and billions of
There are
dollars.
billions and billions of dollars.
Okay.
And then after doing all that thing, we are not having a free run on that also, because we are not allowed to stockpile uranium, and we have not got a categorical assurance for supplies of uranium for the lifetime of those reactors. That means they will be having stranglehold on us
Okay.
through and through, and we will not have a free freedom to operate the reactors
Okay.
unless and until we behave ourselves to their satisfaction.
Then why does a person like Mr. Anil Kakodkar and even a lot of other scientific luminaries to support this deal?
Generally, if you look at the debate that has gone on, because unfortunately there is no very structured debate which has gone on. In fact, the government, there is one failure on the part of the government, lack of proper transparency in carrying out this whole deal, because they have hidden much more than what they have revealed. But at the same time, that even when it comes to the question of consulting the scientists, if you just consulting only those scientists who are actually serving scientists, if their opinion is taken, that's all that matters, as far as the concurrence of the nuclear scientists is concerned.
Okay.
That is, that's not adequate. In fact, they should have broad-based it. They should have gone for a more open debate among the scientists.
Yeah, but why do you think that the government is in such a hurry to? Because though and also the US is quite interested. It's keeping it alive, though it could have called it off sooner than.
It is very clear, it's not that out of any love for India that US is coming in for with this sort of
That's
a deal.
one of the reasons they have not called it off, because
So-
in spite of so many things against it,
that
right?
is-
Because that only shows that there must be something in it for them.
Exactly, that's exactly what I wanted to say. But the thing is, the very fact that they are showing so much of interest itself shows that who is going to benefit.
Yes.
The point is,
And only there are a handful of people in the government too, like apart from the politicians, perhaps belonging to some parties speaking about it, people who really want to advocate this, or rather speak for it.
see, perhaps one angle is that there is a lot of talk going on about the environment. Rio conference, the Kyoto conference, and all that thing is there, and the Americans are being accused of polluting much more than any other country, of course.
Okay.
And they are under pressure, and they have not signed even this environment
Okay.
this thing. pact,
Kyoto.
Kyoto. So they have been resisting that because the American industry is not prepared to go in. But they have realized that there will be a lot of pressure on them actually to sign this. So for that they have to find some less polluting energy producing options actually, and nuclear is one option.
Okay.
But unfortunately the US has not built a reactor since 1979. So their nuclear industry is almost it's dormant, and they have to revive it. Means almost like they have to rebuild their nuclear industry, and their need for more power is also of course is limited because they have also reached certain amount of saturation. So now they have to build reactors for replacing some of the existing reactors, or so that means they have to go for revival of that.
Okay.
Revival requires a lot of expertise, skilled manpower. But
so rather have the R&D in India.
So now R&D is required. That means again this requires a lot of manpower.
Okay.
So India is not only a big market because we have been saying that we want
it's a
tremendous
fertile
amount
land
of power. So
experiment
it's
too.
a big market. So they can use India not only for selling reactors to us,
but also to learn.
Getting the reactors designed by us.
Yes, yes.
They will get it designed by our own staff
and go and plant
and
it
supply to us.
Okay.
And then it serves two purposes actually. In fact, that means we have not only the market and also they can revive their industry actually. In fact, so
but
it's a double advantage.
You say that
for
there
them.
is also some economic angle to this. That's what you're suspecting because of the inflation and the state of the economy. Maybe the government is thinking that through this India can have a better relationship with the US, and that could in turn result in betterment of economy and all that.
Yeah, if you go for the economics, this has never been discussed in the context of this deal. Actually, the point is every time that we used to send a proposal to the government for sanctioning a fast reactor, the government used to keep on asking us what is the cost of power that is generated from fast reactor, how does it compare with the conventional power generation. In fact, they used to ask us, and they were always that they were questioning us quite a lot about, even though it is a new technology and we should go ahead and prove this technology first and then talk about costs.
Okay, you cannot just depend on copying technology and
yes, when we are doing it on our own, they should give us the freedom to develop the technology, which has never been done in the past. Whereas here in this case, the power generation from the nuclear power plants that we are designing and putting up so far is much cheaper than the international cost figures as far as power generation is concerned. So now here we are going in for a deal where the reactors themselves will be imported at much higher cost than what we have been able to build ourselves, and the uranium that we are going to get from outside, we don't know what is going to be the cost of that uranium because uranium costs are going up. Having known that we don't have any other choice because we have to go for imports once the deal is through. At whatever cost we have to buy it. There will not be any free market for buying uranium from the market wherever the cost is low. It will be just another OPEC. There will be a cartel of uranium sellers, and they will fix the price and they will fleece the country. We will fleece the country. We will get fleeced. So whatever is the cost of power, we have to we have to accept it. So that means there is the economy,
it is just
and there is no discussion on economy at all. In fact,
ultimately it's better for us to just depend on our own technology and just wait for it to completely get shaped into.
So as I said,
viability.
See, the thing is, isolation part of it is something which we can discount it because
it has not actually affected
because
us.
we are going strong. It's not a question of isolation because isolation certainly will be there even for all other parts of the nuclear fuel cycle except the supply of reactors, and we are not going to get any great technology from anybody else because after all we know how to design reactors.
What about energy?
But the only thing that happens is that in the short term, by going through this deal, we will be able to put up power reactors, much faster,
Okay.
and we will be in a position to get some energy,
Okay.
much needed energy, quickly. But at what cost? That's what we'll have to
Only means that, for some short-term gains,
Short-term
you are making
gains.
long-term
This-
compromises.
If one were to sum it up, in fact, this deal is good for getting over some of the short-term problems of energy, but certainly in the long term, it is detrimental.
Dr. N. Prasad, I'm sure with a person like you and speaking to you that I was able to understand a lot. I'm sure the viewers are also able to understand a lot about this deal and understand the nitty-gritties to an extent. Thank you very much for having come
Thank
to
you
this
very
show.
much. It's my pleasure.